When working with twin needles or double needles, the sky is the limit. Whether you're doing pin tucks, top stitching, or, like the package shows here, decorative stitches, which is what I want to show you, you really can have some fun. Now, each package has a different size of double needle. The double needle is spaced at the millimeter size shown at the bottom. So this one is a really close together one at 2.0. This one says 3.0, and this one's wider at 4.0. Now, I will tell you a little secret. On decorative stitches, the narrower the double needle, the more dramatic you will get. So we're going to start by just taking the needle off the machine that's regular. Before I go anywhere, I'm going to make sure I'm back on a straight stitch and go into the settings and make sure that I tell the machine what I'm doing. So if we go down to twin needle, touch OK to put a little darkness into that square. And then right now, the default setting is 3.0 double needle. I'm using a 2.0. So you can arrow to the left or to the right to find the size you're looking for. So bigger sizes to the right and narrower sizes down below. So all the needle sizes are in here. 2.0, and then I'm going to just touch the settings button there to reset it. Now let me show you what you need to do for threading the machine. So yes, you do need 2 threads, of course, but if you actually notice, when we were doing our tensions, I'm going to just set this up here, and there's a little kind of a fin, silver fin, sticking up right as we go through this top area. What I want you to do is take your 2 threads, you can put them together for the first guide, but then separate them at that fin. So I'm going to put one on the right and then one on the left. People always ask me, well, what side am I supposed to thread it on? Well, tell you the truth, it doesn't matter which one you go in. But when you do use 2 threads, you put one on each side, and then they both get their own tensions as you stitch. Now notice I give it a little bit of a tug. Make sure my threads go deep into those tension discs, and then I'll continue all the way down to the bottom. Now here is where you have to remember that if you were a needle threader, you no longer have a needle in the center, you have 2 separate needles off to the side. So a needle threader does not work for threading your twin needle, so you're kind of on your own. Maybe a little handheld needle threader would be a nice investment if you have any trouble. It doesn't matter which thread goes in which needle. I'm just going to go ahead and pick one and thread my right one first with one of the threads, and then my left one. And then we'll start off with just some basic straight stitches, just to make sure that everything is threaded correctly. Now if you notice that there's some twisting going on right at the needle tips, just what happens when you have 2 threads going down there. So starting off with the straight stitch, I'm going to just take a few stitches, make sure everything is sounding good while I'm sewing here. Yes, you can use your selective thread cutter. It will cut both those threads no problem and pull it out. Now I was also playing earlier on this same piece of fabric with some of our tapering features here. That is in the F1 feature, which may or may not allow me to go in there when I've got the double needle on. That makes sense. But here's what we're going to see. We're going to see 2 rows of stitches side by side. But watch. Let's just pick, for example, a zigzag, stitch number 5. And it will make sure that I don't accidentally go beyond my stitch width. It will tell me pretty soon. There we go. Stitch width limited for twin needle needles. So what I'll make sure to do, well, number 1, I just won't break it, which is nice. So let's just take it back to normal settings. We'll stitch a zigzag, and then we'll pick a decorative stitch to sew. So this is just super simple. You can have quite a bit of fun. Not all the stitches are going to look fantastic with a double needle, but it is fun to go back through all your decorative stitches and stitch them out with some colorful thread and see what kind of result you get. Because what you see is probably not what you thought you'd get once you start stitching. Okay, let's just do one more fun one. How about something just simple in the quilting menu? Let's do 54. If there's a stitch that it doesn't recommend, it'll come up and say, hey, this stitch isn't set up for a double needle. So there is a few stitches that have already been kind of predetermined that are not ideal for this type of setup. All right, so if you hit the stitch restart, it'll finish the stitch, do the locking stitches, touch your scissors, love it, and let's see what this stitch gives us. Look at that variety from straight stitch to zigzag to decorative stitch, with one color being a solid color and one being a variegated.